All right, we're here. Lightroom CC top 10 tricks. Yeah, I don't know if I call them tricks. Habits, best practices, whatever you want to call it. My top 10. Stick around. Roll that video. Real simple. When I say best practices, I'm talking about from start to finish. When you go into Lightroom, what do? You have your pictures, you're on a card, and where do you go from there? Organization. Actually, the first two are about organization, but number one is definitely the first part of organization as it pertains to your hard drive, your pictures on your hard drive. All right, let's go check it out. Number one, organization. So we're gonna start. I'm gonna slap an SD card in with some images on it. I'm gonna try and take about say 10 images. Okay. Now, control copy. Now what I do is I put a file on my desktop, and this file is actually okay. Now what I do is I put a shortcut to a file on the desktop of where all my images are. This is going to become clear very quickly. Right click on the file, click on open file location. There you go. This is where all your images are. Now these images I've shot with my D750. I know that because the way I name each file in camera tells me what camera it comes from. So, first things first, I have my 4 folders here. We click on D750, open up a folder. And I've already created a folder here, 2018 0707. Now, if you want to add to that, okay, these are pictures of a boy named Nathan. So we click Nathan. There you go. Now we're in there. Now we can just paste those images that I copied from the SD card onto here. Very, very important that they are on your hard drive. Makes things much, much faster in post-production. Number 2 tip here is while you're importing them, you rate them and reject the ones you do not want to work on. In the end, that's going to make the workflow so much faster. Very important. Let's check it out. An extension of organization, but this time within Lightroom rather than on your hard drive. So here's Lightroom. It's open. Now normally what do? We click on import, and then it's showing what's in and on the drive. I don't want to directly bring it from the drive. What I want to do is I want to bring it from that specific place. And I know exactly where it is because I go to exactly the same place every single time. So here are my 4 folders that I had. D750 is the one I want. And I know it's 2018 0707 Nathan. Right? So here's the pictures I imported. There you go. Now I can just quickly import the exact pictures I wanted. Notice this file has been corrupted. That's because it's been on one of my backup SD cards for, well, probably a year now. And this is what happens to files on an SD card. Organization within Lightroom. How do we do that? It's super simple. This is the way I do it, and I recommend that you do it this way. There are many tools, but I think these 2 tools are the best. The X key, which rejects an image if you do not want to work on that image. Okay, so this one I don't. This one I don't. Ah, look at that. Oh, this one I might want to work on. Okay. And the 5. You give it a 5 rating, that means you want to work on it. Let's just say I want to work on these images. These are not. This is corrupted. We're going to X this out. We're going to X this out again. Well, this one's not. And we're going to put a 5 on it as well. This is corrupted. This is corrupted. This is corrupted. There you go. So now we've gone through very quickly which ones that we want to work on and which ones we do not want to work on. And now how does that help us? Quite simply, there's a filter over here. You can filter many, many, many things. The first thing I filter is always 5 stars. Now I'm left with 3 images that I want to work on. Organizing the space in which you work in Lightroom. Let's check it out. So here we are, Lightroom. This is what it looks like when you originally open it. Now here I'm going to show you 2 very quick things that are going to make your life a ton better. So what you do is click Shift and Tab at the same time. Now that's the first step. Now what you'll notice is you've gotten rid of all these little panels all around the picture, and the picture is much larger, right? But we're developing. This is where we want to develop it, right? So we're going to need that develop panel. So you go over to the develop panel, and the second part of it is you click on the little arrow. Now you'll see the arrow is turned that way, and it stays on. So there you go. Now you have all this space to do your developing, and you see the picture larger, unencumbered. So before getting into any kind of adjustments, highlights, shadows, colors, etc., what you want to do is, if you have any cropping to do, I do it before everything. Because if you're making adjustments, you want to make adjustments on what the final composition will look like. So if you're doing any kind of cropping, I would do that first. That way you're not adjusting a sky that won't be in the image. So let me show you. Why do we crop the image before doing the adjustments? Very simple. Let's say I was putting the highlights down and I haven't cropped the image yet. Looking up here is going to influence my decisions. But this is not even going to be in the image because I'm going to crop this out. So let's, really simple, I'm going to go here, 2 things in the crop. Number 1, you can actually control the crop output. So 4:5, this is like, I choose this for Instagram. Let's say I was putting this on Instagram. 8.5, 11 if I'm printing it out, 5:7 prints, etc., etc. 16:9 if I'm putting something into video. 16:10 for wide screen video. Or you can as shot. As shot obviously is, there we go. So now we're in 4:5. I can move this down. I want to keep this above his waist. Okay. And let's cut off some of this on the side. Maybe even a little bit more on this side. So let's just say I've chosen this as my crop. Boom. Now when you make your adjustments, yes, I'm going to be seeing part of this sky in the background, but I will not see all of this in the background. So now when I adjust my highlights, I'm looking at his face, I'm looking at his hands. This is where I want to adjust the highlights for. Adjustments. Where are they made and how do we make them? And a little trick, there are several ways to make these adjustments. Let's go check it out. Adjustments. How do we make them? Where do we make them? So first step, we go into develop. We're in our develop panel now. Shift tab, gets rid of everything, open up this. How do we make adjustments? Well, you'll notice they have sliders. So obviously, first thing and the first way we can do this is slide back and forth, and you'll notice In this case, it's the highlights. The highlights getting darker, highlights getting brighter. Very simple, right? Okay, there is another way though. You hover right over the number on the side here, and you'll notice that you can click on it, and then you can drag back and forth as well. So that's the second way. Now there is another way. If we go up here to the histogram, you'll notice as we go over the histogram, different parts of it are highlighted. And right under here, you'll see descriptions. These are for the blacks. These are for the shadows, exposure, highlights, whites. So you actually hover over the highlights, click on it and hold it, move back and forth, and you'll notice the slider down below is moving back and forth as you're moving back and forth. Now this can be handy if you're used to this. So here, let's bring the highlights down a little bit. Want to bring the shadows up a little bit. Okay, bring our exposure down a bit, right? And the whites, let's bring the whites down a bit. And the blacks, let's bring those down a bit as well. Bang, there you go. I've adjusted all within the histogram. It's not very well. I did it very quickly, my apologies. But it gives you an idea how you can do it without moving anywhere except for the histogram. This one's easy. Reset. Reset. What is that? Well, basically you've done adjustments. You don't like it. You either want to start again as new, or maybe you just want to reset that specific adjustment. Real quick and easy to do. Let's check it out. So you've made some adjustments, and you know, you're not so sure about them. You know, oh, you know what? I've done this too much, done that's too much. You want to reset everything. Right down here on the bottom to the right, reset button. You click on it once, it resets to the original picture. So what happens if you say, you know what, I just don't like the way I did the exposure, but the rest of the adjustments you want to keep? Very simple. Hover over the exposure, double click on it, and that'll bring it back to its default setting. The same goes for anything else. Hover over contrast, brings it back, highlights. There you go. But let's look at a starting point. This is actually a very good trick, starting point. And there's two things within this that you want to pay attention to. Number one is a auto adjustment as a base and a white balance. We're back with our image. It's cropped. We're ready to make adjustments. So where do we start? Now, oftentimes what you can do, if you're not experienced, if you're not sure, is come here to the basics panel. Right next to where it says tone, it says auto. And if you click on that, this is going to give you an interpretation, or the computer's or camera's interpretation of what adjustments should be made. This is much akin to JPEG. Okay? So if you remove that, so this is your raw file. Click on auto. Whoop, that's what your JPEG would have come out with. And the second part, white balance. So here's your white balance. It's in custom right now. It could be as shot, auto. You can adjust it specifically for daylight, etc. Okay? Now let's stick with the as shot. This is what I recommend. This is what I do very often, if possible. Look at something that's supposed to be white in the image. Now this pole, I know for a fact, is white. Okay? So we take our little picker over here, we click on it, and we drag it over the white. Now you'll notice directly under this box, it has numbers. Red, green, blue. In this case, the numbers are 98.4, 98.3, 98.2. That is very close to the proper white balance. So if I click this here, you notice there was a very subtle change. Let me go back, put it back. Very, very subtle change. One very important aspect of photography is to have straight lines. Now, obviously, much more important in architectural photography than artistic photography or even portraiture, but knowing how to get straight lines very quickly in Lightroom, very helpful. Let's take a look. Okay, so you've made all your adjustments, but you think maybe, you know what, this is not quite as straight as I would like it. Maybe I want it tilted a little bit. And there's a few ways to do that. You can come in here in the transform panel and you can use rotate, and you can go up into the crop panel. You just hover over the side, you notice the arrows change. You can grab that and you can actually rotate manually. These are great methods if you're very good at that, if you're very used to that. There is another method though, and let's go back into here. So we go into the crop, right? You click on this little angle here. You click right on the actual icon. You bring it over here. You click on one side where the line is, and then you click on the other side where the line is, and you say this line should be straight. And there you go, you've straightened it as quickly as that. Very, very minimal correction. Same thing is if you want a straight line here and you want this to be straight. Well now this is straight and everything else. Okay? Detail. Now detail is incredibly important. Now detail within a photograph refers to what? It refers to pixels. So in the detail panel of Lightroom, there's actually some very, very good tools you can use, and this is near the end of when I'm editing the photograph where I'm playing in here, so I can either sharpen, blur, or a combination of both the pixels to improve the image. Let's take a look. So in Lightroom CC within the detail panel, this is where we find some very interesting tools: sharpening and noise reduction. And as we go in, you're going to see by default sharpening is at 40, a radius of 1, and detail is at 25. These are the default positions. This is really a balancing act. Now here's some settings that I use to start with, and then I make adjustments from there. So I typically go up to about 60 or so. I use a mask at about 50. And I get my luminance within the noise reduction up to approximately 30. Now this is a good starting point for most images. There's a phenomenon when you're taking pictures, it's called vignetting. Pretty much every lens has it. You'll notice it's a darker around the corners. On occasion it can be almost round around your image. So this tip is, how do we deal with that? How do we handle vignetting and make it work for you? Let's take a look. To handle vignetting, we're going to use two different panels. Number one, the lens correction panel. Number two, the effects panel. Now, for the purposes of this, I'm just going to reset my image here. That way we can see any type of vignetting that already exists. So first step, we go into lens corrections and enable profile corrections. Click on it and you'll notice, see it's a little dim here in the corners. Click on it and it's adjusted it. So no more vignetting. Now you might want that vignetting, but don't worry. We'll be able to take care of that soon enough. So now we've gotten rid of the vignetting. Extra hint here, I always click remove chromatic aberration. I don't really see much in my lenses, but I click it anyway. It does not hurt, trust me. Now, go into your effects panel, and here's the vignetting. So now we can actually control how much darker the corners get, or for that matter, how much brighter the corners get, right? Now, more often than not, depending on the image, I'm somewhere between 10 and 15 maximum. Okay. You know, you can bring it really high, get a really dark, and this really brings emphasis to the center of the image. But it really depends on your image. Most images I'm between 10 to 15. On occasion, slightly higher. And I may go in the other direction for a specific effect. Here I'm blowing out the corners here. And again, bringing attention to the center of the image. That's what the vignetting is for. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Top 10, I don't know, I guess best practices for Lightroom CC. And thanks to Gary for the question. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, click on the like. Share it by all means. And don't forget, absolutely free to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thanks for watching, guys. Take it easy. I'm gonna go take my shower, okay?